Alright, this is a video for suggested homework 6.2, number 25. And what we're looking at here is it's basically exactly the same thing you're going to do in section 6.1, where you're finding the area under the curve using table E, but we're working the problem completely backwards. We're going in the opposite direction. So let's start off by identifying what we know. And so what we know here in this case is we know that our mean is equal to 4.8. We know that our variance is 2.1. Now, however, our standard deviation is equal to the square root of our variance. So if we take the square root of our variance, we come out with 1.45. Alright, and so now we gotta start interpreting and figuring out what this 10% is all about and how we're gonna use that. So now it says 10% of the hospital stays are longer than how many days. So because we're talking about longer, we're looking at the high end here. So you can kind of imagine that, maybe 10% is over here. We're looking at this top 10%. Okay, so the top 10% right there. So what we're actually going to look at is we're going to use the table E to find this location, this x value that corresponds with that location. And so since this area down here would represent 90%, so that's what's left over out of 100, we're going to use the 90%. So remember, we're working this problem completely backwards from what we did in the past. So we start off with 90%. 90% is equal to 0.90 as a decimal value. So this right here is our area under the curve, our area that we found from table E. So let's pull up table E, and we're looking for an area to the right, so we're going to look on the positive side of our distribution table. And so here we are, we're scanning through here, and what we're looking for is we're looking for 0.9. 0.9. So here we go, we got 0.900. No. Okay, wait, up here maybe? Here we go, we got 0.8997 or 0.9015. So this right here will be 15 hundredths. No, I'm sorry, excuse me, 15 thousandths away from what I'm looking for. And so you can kind of imagine that my 0.9 is right in between. So I'm trying to decide which one of these, whether the 0.8997 or the 0.915 is closer. So we're going to go with the 0.8997 because it's only 3/10,000ths away from what we have. So the z-score now, so now we go backwards, remember. So normally we would find the z-score, then we'd find the area. So now we have the area, and we're going to go backwards to the z-score. So when we go backwards to the z-score, you can see that I come across right here, I come up right here, and I find out that my z-score is going to be 1.28 for my particular value, to be as close to my particular value as possible. Alright, so let's go ahead and get back to our presentation here. So that means that from this leads me to a z-score of 1.28. Now, this is where it kind of gets confusing because in the past, I've given you an x, I've given you a mean, I've given you a standard deviation, you found the z-score. But remember, we're working completely backwards. We're looking for x. We're going backwards to x. So let's plug in what we know. We know the z-score is 1.28. We don't know x. We know the mean is 4.8. And we know the standard deviation, in this case, is going to be 1.45. So now we got some good old-fashioned algebra. We've got to take this guy right here and use some good old-fashioned algebra to solve for x. So we start off, and the inverse of dividing by 1.45 is to multiply by 1.45. If we do it to one side, we've got to do it to the other. So 1.45. And so when I take 1.45 times 1.28, I get, we'll just call it 1.9. We'll round to 2 decimal places since pretty much everything else is, I'm sorry, to 1 decimal place. And actually, you know what, let's do 2 decimal places. Let's do 86. So 1.86 equals, oops, let me go back to my blue, sorry about that, x minus 4.8. So now the inverse of subtracting 4.8 is to add 4.8. If I do that to one side, remember these two will cancel. If I do it to one side, I've got to do it to the other side, so plus 4.8. So on this side over here, I've got 1.86 plus 4.8, and that comes out with 6.66 is equal to x. So what that's telling me is it's telling me that my x value at this location is 6.66. So remember, this is my mean, right smack in the middle. My mean for this data set is 4.5. And what they're saying is that that cutoff at 6.66 or 6.67, whatever you want to call it, that's the cutoff where anything above that would fall into this 10% range. That 10% of the values would be above this fixed location. So there's my answer, the 6.66. All right. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and make another video to go along with the next part of the question, the 30%. So we got two videos and it's not too long of a video. All right. Let me know if you have any questions.